Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to an episode of Muslimi Meets with my co-hosts Idil Khair and Ashley Pearson Khan. So today we have the honor of meeting Stephen Brown, the CEO of the National Council of Canadian Muslims. And the National Council does a lot of work, but instead of me talking a lot about this work, considering that Islamophobia is front and center, here in Canada about some of the issues. So I thought I'd, start introducing Stephen. And if you could tell us a bit about NCCM, what you do, Stephen, and why is your work so important?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for the invite and thank you for introducing me. At the National Council of Canadian Muslims, basically our mandate, our job, our mission statement is to try and, is to accomplish protecting the quality of Muslim life in Canada through advocacy and any other means. So basically, I go to work every day and my job is to stomp Islamophobia, stomp Islamophobes, and on the other side, try to help Canada understand who Muslims are, what we do, and try to improve the quality of our life. Right? So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
That's very important. I feel like, this is not something that only Muslims need to know more about. This is not something that, just Canadians need to know about, but this is something that people need to know about, hopefully worldwide. And I feel like that's because this is a worldwide issue. We're Muslim women, we wear hijab, our Islam is very visible. And so we need people like you guys to actually defend us. The second we walk out of our homes, I was born and raised in Canada. And so for me, this is very important. It's very personal. And knowing that, once we do choose the hijab and girls that are younger than us or women that are older than us that don't wear hijab, I feel like the more that they know about your organization, maybe they'll even feel more secure to walk outside and wear hijab, knowing that there's people in place to actually defend us on that level. And I feel like there needs to be some sort of duality for the job that you do, right? Because as you said, there's two parts to this. There's you defending the Muslims, but then also you educating the non-Muslims and what they're doing. So I think that just takes a lot of skill. I don't know, is that exhausting for you? Is that something that, your passion leads you every single day when you wake up to do this job? I'm sure it's not easy.
Yeah, it's definitely a job you have to be passionate about
That's
to
right.
do every last single day. The work is very hard. There's always more work. There's always more work to do than, there are people to do it. Islamophobes don't sleep. I think a big thing that Canadian Muslims think is that Islamophobia is this random thing that happens. It's a couple of Karens out there or some crazy dudes every once in a while, try to do something. It's not.
It's not.
Right? In Canada, Islamophobia is a business model.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
44% of Canadians
Wow.
in recent surveys express negative feelings about Muslims. Right? There's rarely an issue in a country where 44% of people agree on it.
Wow.
So it is an issue that can help companies sell newspapers, politicians get votes, governments attack civil liberties, corporations sell products. So, people wake up in the morning and their job, right, as far as they see it, what they do is to try to leverage people's dislike of us and their fear of us for their own benefit.
Wow.
So Islamophobia is not something that is just going to go away. It's not something that people are just going to forget. They're going to wake up one morning and they're going to be cool with us and they're going to understand we're not all terrorists and stuff like that. That's not the way this works.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is fear of Muslims and dislike of people that look different or maybe act somewhat different right now profits some people.
Wow.
And the reality of our work is to try to bring dedicated people together who want to solve the issue.
Yes.
Because what really matters isn't coming up with the magic, words or power or money or the right contacts. What matters is when you show up at the table, how many dedicated people are with you. That's what matters.
I agree with that because there's so much power in number. Right? Like there's so many people that have missions and there's strong missions, but you need the soldiers who are going to carry this mission out with you.
That's right.
And I think that more Canadians need to know about this and there needs to be more accessibility because we are out here, we are educated, we are taking over fields, I feel like there's so many Muslims, and when we do want to come together, we do come together, but we need to come together not only for conferences and, events, but we need to come together for something that's going to make a change in a lot of people's lives because this is do or die.
That's right.
This is not something that's,
It's no joke. Like in the province that I come from, you're going to say something?
Yeah. So I was going to say, you're talking about how Islamophobes, they don't sleep. And I've told people so many times before, I came from the US and I saw the Islamophobia there. And then I came to Canada, I was like, wow, so many more Muslims.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
hidden.
It's hidden. You come here and then you see the Islamophobia. And when there is an event, an attack, somebody gets killed, somebody gets just attacked on the street, there's a domino effect.
Yeah.
everybody comes out of the woodwork and they're online. You know, the family that got killed in London, Ontario.
Yeah, the Absalom.
Shortly after that, some guy posts a video. There's Muslim women walking down the street and he's like, oh, you missed some, indicating that they should have been killed. And then it's just a domino effect. Another woman got attacked in Edmonton a few weeks after that, and it just snowballs until you kind of stop hearing about it. But there's still people online, and you just never know what's happening that's not getting reported. I spoke to a police officer on behalf of Muslimi. We wrote a blog post about it, how because it was like, I think somebody was near a school with a gun. It was like an Islamic school. And he said, you know, a lot of these mosques, even when they get vandalized, don't always report it. He's like, me as a cop at the masjid, they'll come up to me and he's like, did you call the police? And they're like, no. Because they're like, oh, it's not a hate crime, or it's not like big enough to report. But it is.
That's right.
You have to document these things and you have to get them taken care of, right?
That's right.
So I always talk about that domino effect, because I feel like it happens every time there's something.
Absolutely. It's like, it's almost normalized, you know.
Yes.
And, you know, to Stephen's comment, he said like it's an industry, and like it's actually $1 billion industry.
That's
Islamophobia, and Stephen could probably talk more about this. And I know there's a lot of subject with respect to Islamophobia that we could talk, an important subject that NCCM is working on. But I think Stephen would be interesting for the purpose of our audience. Like, maybe you could walk us through on, you know, an issue that's probably one of the most polarizing issues in the nation right now, on Bill 21.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that bill and what the work that you're doing, and why is it important that someone in English-speaking Canada or across this country is listening with Bill 21? So yeah.
Excellent question. So Bill 21 is a bill that was passed by the last government in Quebec that bans anybody that wears a visible religious symbol or sign from being able to exercise certain jobs for the government.
SubhanAllah.
Okay. Now in Quebec, for the last decade, every last single government has proposed or enacted some kind of legislation to ban religious people from jobs.
Wow.
And the reason why people in the rest of the country need to know about this is because they use the notwithstanding clause preemptively to pass the law.
Yep.
And this was accepted by the court of first instance, which means that right now in Canada, any government can, with a stroke of a pen, bar us from practicing any aspect of our religion.
Wow.
You want to stop people from building mosques because it's not popular? You can do that. You want to get Muslims to wear a little star? You can do that.
Wow.
You want to ban people from wearing hijab on the street? You can do that. You want to force people to stop being able to go to mosque to pray? You can do that. It's legal, notwithstanding clause.
Wow.
Good to go.
Wow.
No problem.
That's scary.
Yeah. I was in the court of the Quebec Court of Appeal in November, and the government lawyers were arguing that the court isn't even allowed to issue an opinion on whether or not this law is constitutional.
Really?
Yes, because the only arbiter of people's fundamental freedoms, as far as the government is concerned, is the electoral cycle.
Wow.
They said the notwithstanding clause lasts for 5 years, and if people don't like what we did after 4 years, they vote us out of government. That is it. If that passes, if we don't win across the board at the Supreme Court, we have two options. We have to change the constitution of the country, or we are second-class citizens. And people in English Canada, because Canadians are we're very polite people, right? Think that this is not coming to a province near you.
Yeah, they're delusional about it.
A few years ago in Quebec, right? Discrimination against Muslims was mostly hidden. Okay, insult on the street and in the media. You barred from getting employment. You didn't get that apartment that you wanted. Okay, but when they found out, when they actually started using data to start pushing newspapers and trying to get votes, what they found was that Islamophobia pays. And what was a marginal political party with not one MP in the Quebec Parliament wrote a promise to ban teachers from being able to wear hijabs in classrooms into government. They are the government that passed Bill 21. And the newspaper that was taking this up is now the #1 distributed newspaper in the province.
Yeah, you see?
So this is a business.
Yeah, it is.
And people need to understand, the Muslim community needs to understand, if you're not at the table doing something about this, you're on the table.
You're on the table.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between.
There's nothing in
This
between.
is black and white.
It's black and white.
There's no gray area.
That's right.
I definitely agree with that.
I'm an African American.
Okay.
My family's been here for 7 generations.
Wow.
I am the first person born in the history of my family with the right to get any job I want and go to school where I want.
Yeah.
The first male born in the history of my family.
That's so important.
And the last, because now my daughter doesn't have that freedom
Yeah,
either.
that's right.
Right? And if we think that 25 or 30 people is going to be able to solve this problem, didn't work for African Americans, didn't work for First Nation people, didn't work for the Jewish community,
Exactly.
didn't work for the Italian community, didn't work for the Chinese community, it's not going to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you have to have everybody, you know, not just hijabi women fighting this bill, right? You've got to have men and non-hijabis, because if
That's
it's
right.
only hijabi women, people are going to be like, who cares? We're not going to listen
Absolutely.
No, I feel like they're
to them. And the
very strategical.
non-Muslims,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
you
have to have
strategical.
everybody backing you up.
That's
and that's
right.
why.
That's right.
You have to have your allies, and you
Yeah.
know, to Stephen's comment and what we've been discussing too is that like, not only what a lot of people often forget, and Stephen probably could talk more about this, is that there's an exodus of a lot of Muslims in Quebec that are leaving Quebec, coming to other parts of Canada.
Yeah.
There's studies where like there's a correlation of mental health and Bill 21, and so there's so much for us to to unpack here.
Yeah, I think they're
There's-
strategical, so we need to get strategical. And thank you so much, Stephen, for really making us understand more things that we never
It's
knew.
very helpful.
I mean, I didn't know. We all have different platforms, and we are definitely here to support you as much as we can. So thank you so much for all of your efforts today.
No problem.
And make sure that you guys tune in. And thank you so much for watching another episode of Muslimi Meets.